Welcome to our setup session. In this setup session, I will demo you how to install Copilot training materials on Windows. Uh, in, you're supposed to get an email with setup instructions, and one of the instructions will be linked to GitHub Copilot repository, GitHub Copilot training repository. This is our Modus training repository, Copilot training, but you should have the one assigned to you by your organization. So please open that URL in a browser and navigate to Copilot Training repo. In Copilot Training repo, we have a setup folder where we contain all materials regarding setup and prepare in local environment. So to start with setup, you need to navigate to the capitalized setup.md. This is our starting point. So if I click on setup.md, I have few instructions here. First, to participate in that workshop, you need to have a GitHub account. And that's supposed to be a GitHub account assigned to you by your organization, or a GitHub account which has access to your organization GitHub Copilot license, business license or enterprise license. And this is this step 2 for us. So each account is supposed to have a GitHub Copilot license assigned before workshop starts. So if you don't have a license assigned to you, please contact a person who is responsible for that in your organization. Step 3, you need to Visual Studio Code. We'll be using Visual Studio Code for this workshop. Visual Studio Code, along as Visual Studio, they provide most capabilities for GitHub Copilot as a primary tool recommended by Microsoft. So we will be using Visual Studio Code for our Copilot training. This section contains link to Visual Studio Code download location. So you can go to the official Visual Studio page and download Visual Studio Code for yourself. Next one, you need to have a GitHub Copilot VS Code extensions. To install extensions, please navigate to Visual Studio Code. You just download or you have it on your machine. Go to extensions icon on the left side of the toolbar and click on extensions. Search for Copilot, and you will have top 2 icons here, GitHub Copilot Chat. Now you can install it, but I had installed it before, so for me it's restart extensions. Let me install. So it says installing. We're installing 2 extensions. Still ask to restart. Okay, so I have Copilot here. You can go through and see what Copilot can do. They have a pretty decent explanation here with some shortcuts, etc. So you can go and research for yourself a little bit what your AI pair programming can do. But for now, we have these extensions installed. As soon as you install the extensions, you need to sign up to your GitHub account. So below this, on the left bottom of your ID, you have accounts icon. So click on accounts, and please sign up with account which has license assigned. So please make sure you are using account here in VS Code to which your organization assigned license, not your personal account, not account which doesn't have license. Just make sure to Copilot to work, you need to have been signed up with correct license. And when you sign up, you will see the small Copilot icon at the bottom here. If you click, it says status ready. That means Copilot installed. Okay, after installing extensions, let's come back to our repository and follow the step 5. We need to have a Python 3+ version installed in your machine. You can just follow the link and install Python from that particular link and run executables to install it. Then you're running your executables. Please make sure you check mark to install pip, to install packages, and to add Python to your Windows path. So those 2 icons, those 2 check marks should be checked when you will be installing Python. You need to have a local permission to write Python application. What does that mean? Some organization restrict access to certain folders for users. So probably you will not have some permissions to run applications in certain folders, or you have permission to run it only in certain folder, like your user folder, not a C drive or D drive or whatever. Just make sure you have permission in some particular folder to run applications. And we will be running Flask app on a localhost port 5000. make sure that port is not listening for anything. And if it's will be listening for, come to our setup sessions and help sessions, and I will show you how to change that port to have Flask running on different port. Step 7, you need to have a Node.js. Again, we have a link to installer here. As long as we have Python and Node.js, we can continue. And step 8 is training repository setup. So we are accessing training repo via GitHub. So below link repo forking and cloning. If you're receiving a zip file, please follow steps 8.2 and follow these instructions how to install it using a zip file. Okay, so again, I'm using a GitHub. So I'm clicking on the repo forking and cloning link. The first section is about forking. I'm not going to fork. I'm going to clone directly from the repo. We are not going to commit anything, not create any branches. So it will be just our local environment. So follow the steps here. First one is create directory called Copilot Workshop. This is pretty important step. And make sure you create this directory. Everything we will be working on will be in that Copilot Workshop directory. So make dir Copilot Workshop. Let me copy it. And now in a file explorer, I'm navigating into the folder which I have access to to run applications. So in the folders you are going to work in going forward, you need to have permissions to run. So if I go into the kind of URL bar, if I can tap CMD, I got my command prompt open exactly in that directory. So again, if I type CMD in a directory, I'm going to do my project or clone my project. I just type here CMD, and it pop ups a terminal for me. Okay. If you're not, if you cannot do this, just navigate in a terminal into directory when you're going to clone that projects. Okay. I think I have two terminals open. Let me close one. Let me, for now, put this down. Okay, so I'm in my terminal. Go back to the browser and repo forking and cloning steps. Let me copy first steps, make dir Copilot Workshop, and put in into the CMD. It's create a directory for me. Next step is CD to that directory. So navigate to directory Copilot Workshop, CD Copilot _ Workshop, and I'm inside Copilot Workshop directory. Now I will be cloning my repository into that that directory. So the command to clone is git clone and path to repo. So I'm doing git clone, git clone, go back to, go back to my repo forking and cloning. Okay, if I go to Copilot training, this is the repo you've been provided with. I click on that green button code and copy HTTPS URL. If you have your SSH key set up on GitHub, you can use a secure URL. Let me I have SSH key, so for me it's SSH. If you don't have, just use HTTPS. I clone that URL, go back to CMD, and I do git clone and URL. It says cloning into Copilot training. So basically, if I go back to my file explorer, I have the following directory structure: Copilot Workshop. Inside Copilot Workshop, I have Copilot training. Okay. Let's go back to our instructions, and instructions again in setup folder and in main setup.md file. So we completed accessing training repo via GitHub, and we are moving to the local development environment, and we will follow link Windows setup. Let me click on Windows setup. And it says before proceeding, just make sure you follow setup.md, you fork your repo or unzip the file in the correct directory. And again, on the top is note, please execute the following command below listed command from Copilot Workshop directory. So you should be inside Copilot Workshop, which is parent of your Copilot training repo. This is pretty important for following steps here. So first, let's create virtual Python virtual environment. Again, I'm just copy pasting command into the CMD. I'm not using the PowerShell. I'm using command prompt. Please use command prompt because you can have an issue running those commands in PowerShell. They should have a bit different version of it. So use command prompt, please. Okay, first command, create virtual environment. Okay, it's create for me virtual environment right here inside Copilot Workshop. Next command is activate environment. I just copying and go back to CMD, and I am pasting it right here. Activate environment. So environment is activated. I see that's on the left side. We have this VNV in brackets. That's mean environment active. Now I need to install my workshop code inside that environment. Let me copy that. Go back to the command prompt. With this command, pip install -e copilot training. So we obtaining all our dependencies for our project. Okay, I install all my copilot training training dependency. Next step is set Python path environment variable. So we will use set x to set it globally, set Python path, and then we need to specify path to Copilot Workshop in quotes. So use this and then open quote, and you can copy the path. Again, that's the remote desktop, and then you copy path. Just make sure you remove all extra spaces which were added and hit enter. Okay, I have my Python path set. At this point, I need to restart my command prompt. So let me close it, go back to my Copilot Workshop directory, and I type here CMD. And again, it pops up for me the terminal exactly at that directory. Okay, so I'm in the directory. I can do echo Python path to make sure it's set to the correct directory. Yes, it is. And next, exit and restart command prompt window we just did. Now we need, as we restarted, we need to reactivate virtual environment. Let me copy that. Reactivate environment. Next, step 8, test the course installation. So we need to run our custom script course 101. Let me copy this and run it in CMD. Okay, we see the serving Flask app from that particular location, Copilot Training C101 SRC App 101 with debugging mode on, and it's accessible on a local port, a local host port 5000. So if I navigate to that URL on my browser, put it here, and append 101, that's the road we defined in our code, we can see this, oh my gosh, hello course 101. Again, now I'm going back to my Visual Studio Code, open my File Explorer, click on Open Folder, open my Copilot Workshop, add it to my Visual Studio Code. Close this. It says it's reactivating terminal, taking some time. Okay, we will be working in SRC app 1.1 right here. So this is where we define our Flask app right here. So basically this command we run when we start Flask app here. Course 101. See, it's run that app 101 file and this particular create app function. And we define just a single road here, which is 101, which returns string hello course 101. And that's basically what we see in the browser. Localhost 5000 port 101, and it's return string hello course 101. At this point, we are ready. We can, at this point, we can start our training, but we can move our terminal inside Visual Studio Code. So let me shut down here by typing Control C. Let me shut down the Flask app, deactivate environment, close the terminal, open Visual Studio, locate Copilot Workshop on the left side, right click and say open an integrated terminal. It's by default, it's open in PowerShell. Sorry, it's a bit small here. Maybe I'm sure if you can see, if I try to make it bigger, it just magnified it 200%. Sorry, let's remove the scope, unfortunately. So basically you can see here PowerShell if I click this in our launch in our profile button, I can select command prompt here. So command prompt, it starts in our terminal, so I can kill PowerShell. So I now have open command prompt inside my Visual Studio Code. I can go back to training setup to find command to activate environment. And that command is right here in step 7, reactivate virtual environment. So let me copy it here, put it in a terminal. Again, this is CMD, not PowerShell. Start it. Sorry, activate virtual environment, and then I run course 101. I already showed this command is calling this particular create app function. It start Flask app again on a port 5000 right here. And again, if I go to the localhost port 5000/101, I can see my hello course 101 string displayed on the screen. That's it for the setup. If you have any questions about setup, please come to our setup session, which is the first session of in each course, and we will help you to guide you through the process.